Hello all, welcome back. So today our goal is to actually create a Linux-based virtual machine on the Azure using the portal. Creating a Linux-based virtual machine on Azure through the portal is a very easy option. One primary reason is because you can find a lot of images pre-built of various Linux distributions like Ubuntu and Red Hat readily available. And even if you want to custom build a Linux image along with some of the software like LAMP software, MeanStack already installed, it is a very easy option even to do so. The steps are pretty much the same as what we have done in our last video for building a Windows-based virtual machine. If you haven't seen that video, I really recommend you to watch that video prior to seeing this video. So let's open our favorite browser and open portal.azure.com. So I'm going to go and create a resource and I'm going to say Linux based virtual machine or Ubuntu virtual machine. So this is one way of creating, or even you can go to the virtual machine section and you can add a virtual machine. So both of them bring us to the same wizard. It's a free trial subscription. That's the only subscription that I have, and you're going to use any of the resource groups. So I'm going to use the VM resource group. All my VMs go in this particular resource group, and I'm going to give the VM a name like test Linux 1. Yeah, I'm going to go to East US region. As of now, I don't want to introduce any redundancy. We will revisit this particular topic when we are doing the availability and business continuity topics for Azure. Image. So here we can, if you can see here, there are a lot of Linux variations: Ubuntu, Red Hat, SUSE, CentOS, Debian. So I'm just going to select the Ubuntu server. I do not want to have Spot instance, and again, if you remember in our last video, we have seen what are the different sizes that are available based on the CPU, RAM, the number of data disks availability, input output operations, temporary storage, premium disk support. So there are a lot of variations, B series, D series. I have dedicated a slide where you can have guidelines which series to use based on the kind of application that you're developing. Alright, so I'm just again going to go with the B1 series or the most cheapest series with the 1 CPU and 0.5 GB RAM, 2 data disks, etc. Alright, so if you see here, we have two kinds of authentication types. Okay, I would like to take a pause here and discuss a little bit further about SSH public key and password before proceeding in this wizard. SSH stands for Secure Shell, and basically it is an encryption connection protocol similar to RDP for connecting to a terminal shell over a network connection. So if you see here, there are two ways of connecting to the SSH shell, either using a public key or a password. Though both of the ways are possible, the recommended way is to use a public key because the password connection leaves the VM vulnerable to brute force kind of attacks, and the most secure and a preferred way of connecting to the Linux virtual machine is through a public private key pair, also known as SSH keys. So first you have to generate a SSH key. Though there are a lot of command prompts through which you can generate SSH key, I'm going to use a more easy way. I have installed something called as putty on my machine. So I'm going to open the puttygen app for generating a key. So I'm going to generate a key pair. So we need to generate some randomness. Alright, a key passphrase. So this is for adding additional layer of security. Save the public, sorry, I need to save the private key rather. VM1. Okay, I need to copy the public key and paste it here. Also, I need to give a user. So this is the port automatically it is allowing. I also want to allow 80 and 443. Or I'll actually show you something else. We will do this enabling of some ports later once the VM is ready. Okay. So this is the disk section. Similar to what happened during the Windows VM creation, automatically you get a operating system disk where the operating system files are placed. You also get a temporary disk because the size which we have selected has a temporary disk available, but again that is for a short-term storage. None of the sensitive or important files need to be stored in the temporary disk. In order to save important information on the virtual machine, you have to create a new disk. So I'm just going to leave the defaults, and if you see here advanced section, again I'm going to leave it as a managed disk because it is easier. If you're using the unmanaged disk, then you will have to create a storage account and take care of the scalability and multiple other things like IOPS, which is a lot of manual effort. So I am going to use a managed disk. Networking, again I'm going to leave with the defaults. If you want to understand details about what are the networking options available, please visit the last video where we have discussed and created virtual networks and subnets. For this one I'm just going to be quick. Alright, I'm actually going to leave the defaults in the management. I don't want to install any extensions post deployment. Alright, so I'm going to live with the defaults and click on create. It's running a final validation. Once the final validation is passed, I'm going to review it, and once it is alright, I'm just going to create it. So it takes a few minutes, and it is that easy to create a Linux based virtual machine. The virtual machine is now created. I'll go to the resource. So on the overview, I can see that the status of this virtual machine is running and all the other details which we have provided right when we were creating the virtual machine. Please also note that the public IP address is 40.xxx. I'm going to copy this. Alright. So in order to connect, I'm using the SSH terminal, and it says that I need to have a client. I can also use a bash prompt, but I have the putty app here. So I'm going to give the host name which I just copied, and in the auth keys I'm going to provide the private key information which we have used while creating the keys. So it says which user you want to log in, Azure admin, and quite right that we have the passphrase for the additional security. Thus we have successfully created a VM and successfully logged in as well. Now here it is simply running any of the putty commands that you're aware. We can see what's the present working directory, which is the home Azure admin directory. I can mkdir any directories. I can do NLS. I can change directory to the home. Okay, so if you do an ls, I'll see what are the different directories. Similarly, you can run many commands. Let us say that you want to see your VM in action. So you want to install a web server. So for that, I'm going to use the sudo prompt. First, I'm going to update the sources. Now I'm going to install the Nginx web server. So for that, I'm going to install Nginx. And the Nginx server is installed. Now I'm going to open the portal and I'm going to see whether I'm able to hit the default port 80. This ideally should be the welcome page of the Nginx website, default website. So while this is coming up, I just want to show you the networking section here. And if you remember that we have not added the port 80 as an allowed inbound port. Hence this site cannot be reached. I need to add an inbound security rule for port 80, and I'm going to say allow HTTP traffic. Okay. And now I'm going to refresh the website once again and see. Sometimes it takes from the cache. Okay, awesome. So this is the default Nginx website which has come up. And thus we have seen the VM in action, and we have browsed the website page from our local laptops. That's it for today. Thank you. Stay tuned for our next videos.